What's going on, Packer fans? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Thanks as always for joining me. Full transparency, I am recording this at about 12:45 p.m. on Friday for Saturday's show. I'm going to be a bit out of pocket for the next couple days. Have a great couple substitute guests lined up for tomorrow, so make sure to check that out. I will be actually at the game at Lambeau in the stands on Sunday. I cannot wait for that. I will be back at my season tickets where I've been since I've been 7 years old, which it's been about 2 years. Actually, the last game I was in those seats was NFC Championship game, Packers-Seahawks. So it has been far too long. I did get to Packers-Lions earlier this year in the stands, but not in good old-fashioned Section 102, row 35. I will be back there this Sunday. Absolutely cannot wait. Hopefully looking forward to Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers. If not, Russell Wilson, Jordan Love will certainly do. But either way, should be an incredible game and cannot wait to be back in the stands at Lambeau Field. So recording this a bit early because I'm going to be heading out of town until that point. So full transparency there, but we still got a ton to get into. Just wanted to give you that disclaimer in case a bunch of crazy news broke on Friday night and I didn't have it covered here. That is why, but I'm sure we have you covered over on the audio version of the Pack a Day podcast. So make sure to check that out today. But let's jump right in. The first big news that I did find out as of Friday is that David Bakhtiari was not at practice. It sounds like he did not re-aggravate anything. This is just sort of part of the protocol of him getting ready to return. It also should spell out, and I'm sure the injury reports come out probably listing him as doubtful or out by the time you're listening to this, but he's not going to play, right? Like there's no way if he didn't practice on Friday that they're all of a sudden rushing him back against the Seahawks. So he will at 99.99%, and I'm almost willing to say 100%, not going to play this week against Seattle. And again, however long it takes, and Green Bay is in a situation where, especially with Elton Jenkins at left tackle, heck, even Josh Nijman, filled in admirably when he went in. I think they're in a position where they can give this as much time as he possibly needs and until he's 1,000,000% confident. And then even then, wait a few more weeks, right? So I think Green Bay's handling this the right way, and you don't want to overwork or overtax, a player coming off of a torn ACL. And when Bakhtiari's ready, he'll be ready. And this, I have no doubt that he's going to be able to come back and step in and be pretty darn close to the David Bakhtiari that we've come to expect at this point as a all-pro left tackle. But do not look for him to be out there on Sunday against the Seahawks based on the fact that he did not practice on Friday. Of course, would be remiss not to touch base on Odell Beckham, who apparently came down to the Packers and the Rams as his final decision. Apparently, it was a hard decision for him. According to some reports, he preferred Green Bay. However, it sounds like LA was offering a bit more contractually and bonuses and those sort of things. And it sounds like LA made a bit more of a run at him than Green Bay did. I kind of got the feeling, and this is just reading between the lines a little bit, I kind of got the feeling, and I kind of talked to this about this with Mike yesterday, is that I think Green Bay is willing to say, you know what, if you're willing to come and play, okay, we'll take you. We're not going to say no. If you want to come to Green Bay at the vet minimum and, buy into the system and know that you're not going to be the guy, we'll take you. We're definitely not going to say no. But, if you're looking for anything more, if you're looking for guarantees that you're going to get the ball a ton or, be a major part of this offense, or you want a ton of bonuses, we're good with you signing somewhere else. That's just the feeling that I get. And I don't disagree with that feeling. I think, one, they would be dumb if Odell Beckham said, hey, I want to come to Green Bay and I'm willing to play at the vet minimum. And Green Bay was like, nah, we're good. That would be silly, right? They should I don't care if he, whatever the situation is at receiver and playmaker and how many, passes you need to throw his way and whatever. If Odell Beckham wants to play at the vet minimum for your team, you say yes at this point in his career. And I don't think that should be a controversial statement at all. But at the same token, I do think that this offense, let's put it this way. This offense isn't struggling because of Green Bay's weapons. And first of all, it's not struggling with Aaron Rodgers when he's at quarterback at all. But you're not getting Odell Beckham and all of a sudden they're going to take a jump. What Green Bay needs on offense is their offensive line to play better. They have enough mouths to feed with Devontae and A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones and MVS and everyone else that's trying to get fed on offense, Randall Cobb, etc. They don't necessarily need another weapon. And yes, is it nice to have a player opposite, Devontae, who can win against single coverage and have some opportunities to make some, some plays after the catch and things like that? Yeah, It would have been nice, no question about it. But if Green Bay wants to get better on offense, it starts with the offensive line. They need to protect better. They need to hold up at the point of attack. They need to, run block better for Dillon and Jones, because those guys are doing a lot of work after first contact. So that to me is where it is. And I've heard multiple GMs speak. I haven't spoken to them directly, but I've heard multiple GMs speak on multiple occasions of how it is incredibly rare that a wide receiver changes the dynamic of your team, especially midseason. Wide receivers are sort of like, obviously they are playmakers, and they help your offense, and Green Bay's offense certainly can bring it to a different level when, with a Davante Adams in the lineup. However, the meat and potatoes of offense is your quarterback, your blocking, and then having some playmakers on the outside, whether that's an Aaron Jones, whether that's a Davante Adams, but you don't need necessarily 3 or 4 of those guys. And what Matt LaFleur's offense is predicated upon is really focusing on Jones and Adams and letting everyone else sort of do the grunt work. It's the blocking. It's the, being at the right precise spot at the right precise time, which opens up another receiver down the field. It's timing, it's rhythm, it's blocking, it's unselfishness. It's everything in a way that Odell Beckham is not. Now you can have, and I'm not saying Davante Adams is not unselfish or any. I'm not saying he's selfish. I'm just saying, like, you can have one star receiver that maybe doesn't have to do quite the blocking that everyone else does and things like that. You can get away with that because it's Davante Adams, right? But if now all of a sudden you're trying to run that Matt LaFleur offense and you've got an Odell Beckham and a Davante and and Aaron Jones on the field, you have more playmakers. Then you have people like the people that are opening up the play for the playmakers. And again, there's ways to work around that. I'm not saying that it all would have been a bad thing, but I'm also saying it's not what would have, in my opinion, completely opened up this Packers offense. If Green Bay can get back to the fundamentals, block things up better, get the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands, let Matt LaFleur run his offense and his system, they have the ability to be a 30-point team again. And ultimately this season to me is not going to come down to whether or not they signed Odell Beckham. Same thing with the Rams. You know how much the Vegas line moved when the Rams signed Odell Beckham? 0. They went from, I think, plus 800 to plus 800 by signing Odell Beckham. It just, wide receivers at this point in the season, coming in, learning a new system, being like a number 3 guy within an offense, it just doesn't move the needle all that much. I know fantasy players, and I know that the name Odell Beckham is like screaming for sign that player. But at the end of the day, it really has a lot less to do with winning than I think a lot of people would expect. Again, not saying they shouldn't have pursued it, not even saying that Green Bay shouldn't have even made a little bit more of an effort, because I can certainly understand that argument and would probably agree with that argument. But if Green Bay was like, you know what, we'll take him if he wants to come here. If not, no harm, no foul. I can certainly understand that viewpoint as well. And I talked to Taylor Merritz, and I've spoken about this before, former Badgers offensive lineman, when he played with the Tennessee Titans under Matt LaFleur. I asked him point blank, what's the hardest position to learn in Matt LaFleur's offense? And he said wide receiver. And, we also heard from MVS via, Ty Dunn's article last year of how MVS said that there's 2 offenses that you need to learn at wide receiver. There's Matt LaFleur's offense, and then there's all of Aaron Rodgers' checks and the stuff that he wants at the line of scrimmage as well. So he's like, you basically are learning dual offenses. And that's a lot for any receiver coming in week 10 in the NFL and also trying to acclimate to a new team, new teammates, new system, new everything, right? So the odds that OBJ would have come in and it's all of a sudden like, look at the Packers are putting up 45 points a game and are completely unstoppable. Like, it's just not reality. Could he have helped? Yes. Would it have been a nice signing? Yes. Do I think they really lost much by him going to LA? I don't. I don't think it moves the needle all that much. All right, let's get into grades for this past week on the defensive side of the ball against Kansas City. Really great performance. I will say this. As I watched this game and went through grades, I thought this was sometimes you're going to have the players play great despite maybe scheme or things like that, where it's just guys making play after play after play. And other times it's a team effort, and the scheme is really what's successful. And this is one of those games where, yes, I thought Chris Barnes had a phenomenal game. I thought he was the star on defense. Outside of that, I thought this was a scheme win. 11 guys playing team football, rallying to the ball, playing fast, playing aggressive, trying really hard. And I thought that this was ultimate. Like, if I was giving a grade, I would give Joe Barry a massively high grade for this game, in their performance on defense. But as mentioned, Chris Barnes was my top graded player on defense. He made multiple goal line stops. You're probably remembering the huge one at the sideline, but he also filled a gap on a play where they would eventually score the opening touchdown, I think it was. But made a stop a couple plays before that, was going sideline to sideline. His range was great. His toughness was great. His physicality was great. Playing behind the line of scrimmage, there was one play where he keyed immediately, got up the field and made a play. Like, just high-level stuff from Chris Barnes, showing great instincts, great range, great physicality, all the traits that you would want from an inside linebacker. It seems crazy that Jalen Smith and Oren Burks were taking snaps from him just a couple weeks ago. I know he was kind of working his way back from injury a bit, but no more. To me, Devondre Campbell, obviously your 1A linebacker, but Chris Barnes is your 1B. Get Oren Burks in for a few snaps in a few different packages to show off his athleticism and some of the things that he can do, but Barnes has solidified himself, in my opinion, as the number 2 linebacker on this team. And depending on what happens with Devondre Campbell next year as a free agent who likely earned himself a huge contract that Green Bay probably can't match, look for Chris Barnes to become the guy in the middle of this defense for the foreseeable future. I thought this was a really good step, a really great step in the right direction for Barnes in his development. Now, of course, consistency is the name of the game, and he needs to show that week after week. But there was some special stuff on tape from Chris, and I'm excited to see if he can continue to do that, especially against a tough Seattle opponent coming up where you got to be on your A game against Russell Wilson and his scramble ability and keeping him in the pocket and everything like that. So great stuff from Chris Barnes. Number 2, Kevin King. Who would have thunk it, right? But Kevin King had a really nice game. Yes, he dropped the interception before halftime, but he tackled well. He rallied to the football. He played quicker and more agile than we've seen him play in a long time. I don't know if he's just feeling healthy. I don't know if he's just a little extra spry this game. I don't know if he had a pregame, grilled cheese sandwich that fired him up. I don't know what the heck it was, but he was great. He was nothing short of great in this game. I thought he covered well. Like I said, he rallied to the football. It was all of it. He played a full, complete game. And we just haven't seen that. And I shouldn't say that because the MO for Kevin King, as I've mentioned before, you get about, 15, you probably get about 12 games in a season from Kevin King. He's going to miss about 4 or 5 games. About 4 games, he's going to be great. About 4 games, he's going to be terrible. About 4 games, he's going to be nondescript. So this was one of the quarter games where you get a great game from Kevin King. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope like heck I'm wrong, and I hope this is the first of what's going to be an amazing career from here on out for Kevin King, and he is phenomenal week after week and can stack success and show consistency. But either way, right? If we're going to, dump on Kevin King when he plays terrible, we better praise him when he plays great. He played great, and he certainly is deserving of praise this past week. And speaking of players who are deserving of praise, number 3 on my list, who didn't play that much, 20-some snaps, Dean Lowry. I do not know what has gotten into Dean Lowry the last month, but he has looked so much better than he did all of last year, all of the first 3 or 4 games this season. I don't even know how to put it in words. He is collapsing pockets, using strength, just completely bull rushing through players, resetting the line of scrimmage. We've seen a couple of Dean Lowry games like this from time to time, but we haven't seen him put together a month like this in his career. This is really, really good football from Dean Lowry. And I always talk about from a coach's standpoint, right? How do you evaluate coaches? I always look at players and your expectations for them going into the season. How many players are exceeding expectations? How many players are meeting expectations? And how many players are falling far below expectations? And I look at this Green Bay defense right now, and there are a lot of players that are exceeding my expectations right now. Kevin King this past week, certainly Rasul Douglas on the whole, Whitney Merciless since he got here. Kenny Clark is certainly at or above my expectations for what he can be as a player. Rashawn Gary's exceeding my expectations. Devondre Campbell, Chris Barnes, Dean Lowry. There are a lot of players who are either meeting or exceeding expectations. That starts with coaching. To get the most out of your players week after week after week is a coaching trait. And right now I am very impressed with this Packers defensive coaching staff at all levels to get these guys ready to play. And they are playing so much better football than earlier this season and so much better football than we saw a season ago. As I've mentioned, I am not willing to put all my chips in the center of the table to say Green Bay's defense is great yet. We all remember Aaron Rodgers' comments after the one Bears game, we got a defense. Guess what? They didn't. But there are a lot of things that are trending in the right direction, and I'm excited to see if they can continue that with, again, some challenging games upcoming, including a tough game this week against the Seattle Seahawks. On the downside, Jonathan Garvin was my lowest graded player. He's just not ready yet. He will show a flash here or there, but the consistency isn't there. The effort isn't there. I'm always left wanting a little bit more from Jonathan Garvin. And I think, one of the things about a Zadarius Smith coming back, right? Or a David Bakhtiari coming back. It's not only are you getting a Zadarius Smith or a David Bakhtiari, and having positive snaps on tape from them and positive impact on the game. But you're taking your lowest players, in this case, Jonathan Garvin, and you're not having him on the field. So he's putting, 10 to 15 snaps that aren't very great at all and below average on tape every week. Now those are on the bench, right? And now you're replacing those plus with Za'Darius Smith. Like at some point, that's going to be the change. And you've got Za'Darius and Preston and Whitney Merciless and Rashawn Gary. Like there's no room for Jonathan Garvin. So you're taking those snaps that are well below average and basically getting rid of them entirely. And now you're adding Z's plus performance. It is a huge game changer. And same thing with David Bakhtiari. You're probably removing Royce Newman and his, if you take his below average game out this past week and put in a plus performance from David Bakhtiari, that changes things quite a bit on the offensive line. So it's not only that you're getting a great player back, but it's that you're taking some of your lowest graded players and putting them back where they are in a developmental space on the bench where they're still learning. And again, I have faith in Jonathan Garvin and Royce Newman that they can become good players over time, but they're not great players right now. And Za'Darius Smith and David Bakhtiari are. So the sooner they can get back, certainly the better. The other two players on my lowest graded players were Rasul Douglas and Henry Black. Nothing egregious from either. A couple plays where they could have covered better. Henry Black, a couple hang with thems against Travis Kelce, arguably the best receiving tight end in all of football. Rasul Douglas had a couple plays where it got a little bit grabby. Also just, didn't maintain coverage the way that, he really had in previous games. Nothing egregious, nothing concerning, anything like that. But three players have to end up on your lowest three graded grades every week. And this week it was Garvin, Douglas, and Henry Black. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to check out tomorrow. We've got two very special guests. I will be back on Monday to recap Packers Seahawks and my takes sitting from section 102, row 35 in Lambeau Field. Can't wait to be there. If you see me out at Lambeau, make sure to say hi. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.